Hi, I'm Bahar Gidwani, the CTO and one of the co-founders of CSRHub. And I thought today I would do a demonstration of what we call our API, or Application Program Interface. It's got a fancier name. It's the CSRHub RESTful API, or CRISA, but let's just stay with it as calling it the API. What is REST? Why do we call it a RESTful API? REST stands for Representational State Transfer. I don't know if that helps, but it's when you provide an application access to your web resources in a textual way, and then you support reading and notification of these resources in what's called a stateless protocol, some kind of predefined set of operations. In other words, you pass what you want to us, describe what you want, and then we're supposed to send it to you. The REST calls look a lot like web URLs. You can see here we've got HTTPS and CSRHub. We've called the CSRHub website. The most common format for the return of data is to put it into a structured format called JSON. That's JavaScript Object Notation. It's an outgrowth of something called XML, Extended Markup Language, that has its own international standard. This is all really kind of obscure, I'm sure, for most people, but what you do is you post things to the API, and then you get things back. So I'm going to use a little tool called Postman. I think it's a good name for this tool. And I'm going to show you how this works for several different examples. The first thing you have to do is you have to ask our API to give you credentials, to give you an ID to use our system. And what you do is you put into the body of your request, you fill it out first with csrhub.com API. We're on version 2 of the API. And you say to it that you want to have in the body a name with your user ID, a password with your password. If you put these two things in properly, lo and behold, you get this response, which is in fact a JSON response. This is the pretty version of it. If I shift over here to the raw version, you can see there's all different kinds of ways to look at it. But the nice thing is that here we've got something defined as session ID, and here is the session ID. That's a number that will work for the next 25 hours to let me access my CSRHub information. Well, let me give you an example of how this might work. Let's say, for instance, I want to get the average rating for Spain, for all the companies in Spain. I put into my parameters, my session ID, there's my long number I just got. I put in, after V2, I put in what I'm looking for. I'm looking for an average. I'm looking for it for a country and for Spain. And when I send this, it comes back and it tells me the answer is 60.542. So 60.5 is the average rating for the companies in Spain. Now remember, I told you this could be done just about as well as though it was a web address. Let me copy this, go over to my little Firefox here, enter it, and lo and behold, I get exactly the same thing. Now it's kind of small up here, a little bit hard to see, but there it is. Notice it's telling me it's JSON. It can tell me what the raw data looks like. It's got little curly brackets on it. It can do pretty prints and things like that, but it's essentially the same thing. I've asked for one piece of data from the database. I've given it the proper key. I put things into the right format, and the system is returning to me something it's calling value and a number. This particular call goes against one of our databases. It's going against our MySQL database, which has lots of individual bits of data in it. But I could equally well pull out an entire document. So let me show you how that looks. I put in my session ID again. I don't have anything else I have to put in. I just instead go right into the domain area of company, put in a colon, and put in Apple. Now notice I've had to convert Apple into what they call encoded URL. I've got to replace the space in Apple's name with this percent sign and 20. That's so that it will know what it's supposed to do with this. When I send this, it returns something interesting. It returns a long document. See how this looks? It's got all kinds of information. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick this up. I'm going to take it over into Firefox. It's probably a little easier to see over in Firefox because it'll be nice and pretty. Okay, so I've returned a whole bunch of information about Apple. First, the internal CSRHub ID, then its name, then its ticker, then the website, address, description of Apple, and here's a whole bunch of different numbers about Apple, subcategory, scores, its status, what special issues might it be involved in, and which data sources are using it. This particular call is hitting our MongoDB. Mongo is a database that records a document for every company that we have. And this document is built to efficiently transmit all the information we have currently about a company with a single call. You saw it right here. We have a third database. It's a little bit trickier to work with, but I'm going to show you how it works because I think it's important to know what it is and how it works. It's going to be a little bit, maybe a little bit obscure to some people, but this is a call that goes up against our Monet database, and it calls actually a matrix of data. The way you do it is you send an API request that asks for a company's HTML table. You pass it a session ID, and then you build a body where you say what names you want information on and what fields you want. And there's a long list of names and fields. Our API has 220 different endpoints, so a lot of different things you can ask for. I've asked here for Apple, I've asked for Microsoft, I've asked for their overall rating, and for the number of sources used in the rating. And so I didn't have to put in that ugly %20 thing. I told it these were URL encoded, and so it knew to put spaces in where we're supposed to put them. When I send this to our system, it comes back with an ID of a table. What it's done is it's actually built a little table in memory on our server, and it's waiting for you to ask for it. You copy this ID. Of course, this would all be done programmatically in your program. You paste it carefully in here. You send this back to the server, and you get this nicely little formatted table. Looks very much like other kinds of HTML tables. Notice that there's a number and another number, number and another number. Our system assumes that you know that the first company you asked for was Apple, and that the first field you asked for was Apple's overall rating. And the second field was the number of sources that supported that rating. So here's Microsoft's overall rating and the number of fields, the number of sources that support that. It doesn't bother to stick Apple in here or to name the fields. It knows, it thinks you know what you're doing, and it's making a little table out of this that can actually be, again, you can do this in Firefox, and if you format it properly, it will show up as a little table. See? Looks nice. There's first, there's the second. You would know to put what the headings are in here, what the road numbers are in here. And if you've used our Excel tool, you know this is our bulk dashboard. We use our APIs to do everything. We use them to build our website, we use them to power Excel, and then we use them, of course, for all the various people who are using us in various kinds of applications and other kinds of products. That's a quick review of our API. I hope it was helpful. What I've shown you is that there are several different ways you can extract data from us. There's quite an extensive documentation on this if you want to request a document from us, and we can share more with you. Thanks.